Ruchim Aboim B'Shem Irgun Shir Torah. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's shir from Irgun Shir Torah's annual summer program. I'd like to give a big yeshikach to Mr. and Mrs. Matas Abram and family for the support, for the sponsoring tonight's shir. Nishmas Moshe Yaakov ben Mataseo Sholem, Osher ben Altachayim Rishaya, Chaim Mindel Bas Rishaya Yehuda, Yudis Bas Moshe Yaakov, Itisar Bas Rabbi Yisrael, and Schus for Shleim V'Gittel Bas Dvora, so Shachel Yisrael. Looks like it'll be Yeshikar to Mr. and Mrs. Noah Karas is sponsoring tonight's share and the broadcast. To have the great schus of sponsoring a share, call Irgun Shir Torah 718-851-8651 or email ist@yeshivanet.com. Tonight we have the cover to have with us once again Rabbi Yonatan Rietti, noted speaker, speaking what do you mean live in the now? When else can I live? It's my cover to call on Rabbi Rietti for tonight's Russia.
Good evening. If I could trouble you to turn your cell phones on to vibrate out of respect to those who are trying to fall asleep. Pleasure to be here again. Thank you very much to Rabbi Bold for inviting me, Rabbi Deutsch for all the arrangements every year with all the duplication. The schus of Harabim. The many people that benefit from the Shurim should be making on all the Kehillah here and also your very good selves for the Mesiras Nefesh you have to put this all together. Amen. What does it mean to live in the now? There is no other time to live in. It's an expression that's become very popular, and want to explore it a little bit further. I've got good news and bad news and better news. Which do you want to hear first? Okay, the truth is you're going to see that none of them are really bad news, but the bad news is you're going to die. The bad news is you're born to die. From the moment of conception, birth onwards, the clock is ticking until 120. So that's, if you want to call it, the bad news. The good news is the real you is not your body. The real you is your neshama. Your neshama never dies. The body, yes. The better news is that even the body is returned to you at Tchias HaMesim, and so in that sense, we're good? In that sense, even the bad news is really only from our perspective. And what I'm really describing here is really three realities. There's my reality, the way I look at the world and think it is. There's your reality, the way you look at the world and think it is. And then there's Hashem's reality, which is the and only reality. And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us His Torah, what He's, in a certain sense, doing is giving us access to His reality. So the definitions of God's reality is His Torah. Torah Shebechtav, Torah Shebal Peh. And in that sense, anything we want to try and define, we really need to go and ask, okay, so what does the Torah say this really is? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes out of His way, and according to many, it's one of the 6 constant mitzvahs, even though if you really look carefully, there are a lot more than 6. But I'm not going there now, it's not tonight's discussion. But lo taturu acharei levavchem ve'acharei einechem. We say it every day. Very few psukim are part of our daily tefillah that's a chiyuv. We actually have an absolute obligation to say these 3 paragraphs, and the last paragraph of Shema Yisrael contains this mitzvah tamidi, constant mitzvah, every waking second of our lives. Don't follow Lo taturu acharei levavchem. Please be merchel me. I'm not going to translate the word leiv as according to its popular translation. I'm going to call it according to Chazal. Chazal tell us the word leiv means das. Ibn Ezra on that pasuk, Perek Vav, pasuk Dalet, pasuk Hey, va'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha. Leiv hu hadas. Ramban concurs. Leiv means mind. Rabbi Victor Miller of blessed memory talks about this frequently. that the word lave, unfortunately, we're stuck with a Christian-based translation that's always translating as heart, but the majority of times it means mind or thought. Whenever the word lave is doubled over, it means thoughts. It's plural. Lo ta'turu acharei levavchem. Don't follow your thoughts, ve'acharei einechem, and your eyes. Rebbeinu Shalom, those are the only eyes and thoughts I've got. So what do you mean, don't follow my thoughts? The Rebbeinu Shalom says, please learn my Torah, all Tariq mitzvahs, so that when you get to Lo ta'turu, you'll know what you're looking at, if it's real or not. You'll know what to think. And the pasuk actually says, Ureisem oisai. You will look at that thread of tcheles, or at the tzitzis, uzchartem et kol mitzvosai. You'll remember all my mitzvahs, ma'asisem oisam, and be able to do them. There's no next pasuk. The next words are part of this pasuk. V'lo tasuru acharei levavchem. Oh, because I've injected in my mind your Torah and mitzvahs. Oh, so now when I look at something, I know whether I'm supposed to think about it or not. And there are many mitzvahs of the mind that HaKadosh Baruch Hu warns me, don't go there. Resentment, lo titor. Nekama, don't go there. Lo tisna, oh, don't go there. Hatred. Complaining. Ma yit'oinen adam chai. In Eicha, Perek Gimel, I think Pasuk Lamates. Ma yit'oinen adam chai. What does someone who's alive have to complain about? He wants to complain? Okay, I'll give you what to complain about. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Gever al chata'av. That's the only legitimate complaint. To complain about my own mistakes. Not yours, not anybody else's. There are many mitzvahs of the mind. We've talked about this in previous years. That's not tonight's presentation. Tonight's presentation is, what does it mean to live in the now? There is no other time to live in. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you've got your reality, I got mine, and you've got yours. It's actually right at the beginning of the whole of Shas, almost the first sugya. Actually, Daf Gimel in Brachas, right at the bottom, going on to Dalet, says there are 3 reasons you're not allowed to go into a churva, into a ruin. Reason number 1, it's dangerous. There might be falling rocks. You don't know if the structure is really safe. So number 1, it's dangerous. Number 2, hey, there might be a zoinem, a lady over there. What's a person going into churva? Make a liaison. Number 3, there are shadim, shindalets. I shouldn't say at night time. Demons. So Mefarshim tell us, these are the 3 realities. Because the Gemara actually asks, why do I need 3 reasons? 1 should be enough. It goes through every possible combination. But listen to the 3 realities. From my reality, oh my gosh, it's dangerous. Don't go there. But if I'm going in there and someone else is looking, what's he going in there for? So in his mind, he's got a meeting with someone, Haz v'shalom. But Rebbeinu Shalom, he's got a separate reality which you and I can't see. And that is, there might be shindalids there that are dangerous and can harm a person. So, I'm just quoting that Gemara as an example of where there are 3 realities, but it's only really 1 reality. But you and I still have to deal with each other's realities. But they're separate, they're not the same. So from Hashem's perspective, we're here for 120 years. Then there's supposed Misa, but the Misa only lasts for maximum till Tchias HaMesim. And Tchias HaMesim is coming very soon. We are now in the year 5781. Chazal tell us, I think it's Gemara in Sanhedrin, around about Sadik Zayin going to Sadik Ches, that the way we know it, the world is 6,000 years. That's the cutoff line, Mashiach, and Tchias HaMesim has to be by then. So you're getting really close. So hold on. Tchias HaMesim is coming in a cemetery near you soon. That's not actually accurate because it's going to take place in Eretz Yisrael, and anyone who's buried here will roll over there. I hope it'll be first class, whatever's the method. So comes along Chazal and warns us, this world is temporary. But from a Kadosh Baruch Hu's perspective, when we mourn death, when we mourn a loss, when we mourn tragedy, when we suffer Yisurin, from a Kadosh Baruch Hu's perspective, it's actually only for our benefit, and death is not real. It's real to us because we think it is, but it's not part of his dictionary. Because Tchias HaMesim is for how long? When Yeshayahu Navi says, Bila hamaves lanetzach, the Hashem is going to swallow. What a metaphor. The moment you swallow the food, that's the end of it as far as you're concerned. Your pleasure began here, ends here. The true value of the food begins here onwards. But Kadosh Baruch Hu uses this as a metaphor. Bila hamavet lanetzach. Hashem will swallow death forever. Umach Hashem tim'ami al kol panim. And all tears of pain will be wiped off our faces. The only tears we'll ever have moving into the future from Tchias HaMesim onwards, tears of joy, simcha. So even what you and I see as tragedy, death, illness, suffering, that is purely our reality. But Hashem says, this world is only good. Really? Really. We're going to get to it. So let me share with you a mashal. I saw this in Chelik Dalet of Siach Sarfei Kodesh. Fascinating mashal. Very simple mashal. I'm going to slightly embellish it. A person has been sentenced to death. That's the final verdict. And he's taken into, the mashal's about a carriage. It's like 200 years ago. So I'm just going to pretend it's an armored car. He's taken into an armored car to the gallows. Just before he gets in, he asks the driver, how long is the journey from here to, he wants to know when he's going to die. So the driver says, well, actually, it depends on the judge because there are quite a few locations that you could be hung. It might be a minute away. There's one that close. There's one that's about an hour. And there's another, like a few days journey. So which one will it be? I want to know how long I'm still going to live for. He says, well, it depends on the judge. So he gets into the armored car, and just, this is my embellishment, just pretend it's a smart car. What does that mean? Well, in this armored car is a internet access, unlimited Netflix, movies galore, any magazine you can pull up on a screen and read it to your heart's content. They've even got a helmet, which is a 3D virtual reality helmet. I don't know if ever of you have worn one. They are fascinating. You wear this helmet, and with the controls, you can choose, let's say, outer space. So you choose to be out of space, and all of a sudden, you actually see three-dimensional, and oh my gosh, you look down, and there's nothing there, just stars in the far distance. You turn around, it makes no difference where you turn, you'll see different planets and stars, and you think you have this dimion in your imagination. You have no ground to stand on, and you can actually lose your balance because when you look down, you realize your feet aren't on anything solid. Your brain tells you, but you know you are, and this is just in your imagination. You can go to Grand Canyon. You can go in, over. You can go anywhere you want with this 3D virtual reality. You have a cell phone there with all the names of all your contacts and all your emails. And listen, there's a bathroom, microwave. There's a replenishing refrigerator, which means as soon as you take a drink out, a new drink is put in its place, and the same with food. So that whoever designed this armored car on its way to the gallows ensured that you're not only having comfort, but you have luxuries. So let me ask you, the person who has just been given the verdict, he's going to die, and is on the way to the gallows. How is he going to spend his last minutes, hours, possibly days in this armored car? Checking his emails every few minutes, watch a movie, read a novel, flick through a magazine, make some phone calls? Or is he going to open up, if he's allowed to take a Tehillim with him, or just pour his heart out to Kadosh Baruch Hu Rebbeinu Shalom, please let this be a kapara for all my mistakes in my life. Please, Rebbeinu Shalom, if there's any possibility, because David HaMelech says it, that even if a sword is right on my neck, and I have a split second left of my life, Rebbeinu Shalom, I'm going to still hold out for you. Maybe you'll save me in the last second. never give up. And so he starts davening that maybe the king will commute his sentence, his death sentence, or maybe the judge will, I don't know, rescind the entire death penalty. So, gentlemen and ladies, what's the nimshal? It's very simple. Our neshama is brought down here from based in Shalmala, where it's decided how long we're going to be in prison. We're born to die. And I'm not saying it to catch your attention, it's simply the reality. Nobody escapes this world alive. Chazal tell us there were 9 exceptions. We're not talking about them. You've got Hanaich and Basya, daughter of Parai, Eliyahu Navi, probably the most famous. We're not referring to those exceptions. All the other billions of human beings born into this world died. And while we're in this prison, and it's not really the perfect mashal, however, Chazal do tell us, I think it's in Pirkei Avos, Perek Gimel, around about Mishnah Tezayin, depending on which edition you have, Mitzuda, Ferusa, Al Kol HaChayim. Mitzuda, there's a trap, Ferusa, that's spread out, Al Kol HaChayim, on every human being who's alive. And Chazal tell us, look at the Rav Bartanur is quoting Chazal, what's the Mitzuda Ferusa, this trap that's spread over anybody who's alive? Yisurin umisa, suffering and death. It's impossible to escape. So while we're traveling this armored smart car, which is brilliantly designed, so brilliantly designed that it's extraordinarily distracting. And there's a lot of places to visit, there's a lot of things to read, and there's a lot of things to learn that could distract me from Das Elokim. Please fill your mind with my mitzvahs, with my mind, so that when you're looking at this world, you'll know what to look at, what not to, what to think, what not to. Lo taturu. Don't go touring. The word tour comes from, in English, the word tour comes from lo taturu. Lo taturu, acharei levavchem ve'acharei nechem. Go after my mind, the way I see the world. So what is this person going to do? We all know the answer. He knows he's going to die, and he doesn't know when. It might be an hour, a minute, a day, but the absolute max is 120 years till he gets to the death penalty. Now, maybe it sounds like, so what? It really still is a beautiful world, and that's true. But here is God's reality. This world is a prusdor. It's a corridor, a reception room, before the traklin, in front of the banquet. And the only way you can get to the banquet hall is through the prusdor. And here is where I hatken atzmecha beprusdor. Interesting language. Hatken is a lashon of tikkun, which has the meaning of both preparation and fixing. In the words of Rabbi Victor Miller, this world, Olam Hazeh, is one big hospital. We're all suffering from some sort of illness, whether it's ka'as, anger, gaiva, Rahman al-Islam. I actually believe that my success is because of my intelligence, or my thinking, or the things that I brought around in business. That is simply my false reality. In God's reality, He was making all the connections. Mizavik zevugim. He's bringing everyone around, whether it's a business opportunity, whether it's an actual marriage, whether it's the children that are gifted to us. It's all a pure gift. Gaiva is sheker gamur. That's one of the two. Gaiva and Kas are the only two that Rambam in Hilchas Deis, I think Perek Beis, Halacha Beis, tells us you have to go to the opposite direction and have no middle road. No middle road. You've got to go to the other extreme. Why? Kas is never justified because it's a complaint. Every single complaint we had in the midbar, we paid the price for. Some of those complaints we're still paying the price for. Meraglim especially. Lashon Hara is a complaint. Ka'as is a complaint. That if I were running the show, Rabbi Shalom, let me show you how it ought to go. That's a Avodah Zarah. That's why it's equated to Avodah Zarah. Gaiva is just simply sheker. It's not true. Natira, remembering other people's faults, that's sheker. That's my reality. But in God's reality, He wants to be mevater and to be mochel and move on. Every single midah is ultimately a complaint. So comes along Chazal and warn me that I'm here to fix myself. I got 120 years to do it. Let's figure out together, how much will the richest man in the graveyard pay for one more day? If he could come back alive for one more day, how much would he pay? For those still awake. How much would he pay? No value. He'll pay everything. Now let me ask you, how much value does 1 minute or even 1 second have? So I did this last year, so I'm going to run through it very fast. If Has v'Shalom, a Jew's life is in danger, and you have a chance to save him, but the only way you can do it is to be Mechal Shabbos, do you have an obligation to break every single one of the malachas of Shabbos to save his life? Yes or no? Absolutely. Now, I'm just speaking theoretically. If the only way to save this Jew was to violate every single love, every single Aveira in the Torah, bar 3, except for murder, Gilui Arayos, and Avodah Zarah. But except for those 3, would you have an obligation to save his life? Yes or no? Yes, you still have to break every mitzvah in the Torah and be mevatel all the assays as well. And just listen theoretically. If every single Jew in the world had to be Mechal Shabbos, break every Aveira in the Torah except for 3 to save one person's life, and everyone knew that you would only succeed in saving his life for 1 second, would there be an obligation, theoretically speaking, would there be an obligation for every Jew to be Mechal Shabbos and Oivon, every Aveira in the Torah, bar 3, to save one Jew's life for 1 second? Yes or no? So the question now begs, big question. How could all the Aveiras in the Torah, bar 3, and all the Assays be Mevatel, and Shabbos, Mechal Shabbos, and that would be outweighed by one person's life for 1 second? You'd only succeed in saving his life for 1 second. Why would that all be outweighed by 1 second of a Jew's life? What can a person accomplish in 1 second? Oh, one hirur of teshuvah. One thought of, I'm sorry. One thought, I want to come back to you. One thought of regret of any mistakes I've made in my life. It's already worth it. Ooh. When am I supposed to do tshuva? Yesterday? Tomorrow? When's the only time I live? I only live today. Which hour of today do I live? Now I'm in right now. Do I live hour to hour to hour, or minute to minute, or moment from moment to moment? Oh, yesterday never exists. Never. It might be a memory, and I might be stupid enough, please be mochel me, really stupid enough to talk about yesterday, and talk about it, and talk about it, and talk about it, and vent with lots of people, even pay money to talk about it. So if the person who's supposed to be a professional and helps me take whatever lesson I need from yesterday, move it forward, go there. Otherwise, Chazal say, ma dahava hava. What happened, happened. As Rashi says there in the Gemara in Yuma, Daf Hey, I believe it is, ma dahava hava, ma tzarich lanu lishol. What do we have to ask questions about it? What are you going to yesterday for? It happened already. Ma dahava hava. It's gone. History. Later on, in the same Masechta Yuma, where Chazal use the same expression, ma dahava hava, it happens, gone, finished. Rashi says a different comment, but similar idea. And what is that? Rashi says, Efshar lachzira. It's impossible to bring it back. It happened. But if I spend time in my memory thinking and talking about yesterday, I'm wasting the only time I live in. If I worry about tomorrow, am I living now? If I'm going on and on and on about yesterday, am I living now? In a certain sense, I'm actually wasting the only time I exist in, which is now. And I'm not just talking about a moment in time, I'm talking more about what I'm thinking in the now. So let me share with you, when we talk about the value of a moment, one hirur of teshuvah is everything. Yeshayahu Navi had to spell it out to us. Famous pasuk. We actually just said it a couple of days ago in the Haftarah for a fast day. It's from Nun Hey in Yeshayahu Navi, and it goes from pasuk Vav till pasuk Yud. Dirshu Hashem b'himatzai. Search Hashem out when he can be found. That's really everywhere, all the time. Chazal tell us that Hashem, so to speak, is more intensely found during our Yimei Tshuva. Sorry, is this good? So, search him out when he can be found. B'yoysa karov, while he's close, while he's still close. Yazayv rasha darkoi. Let the wicked person let go. Yazayv, let go. Completely forsake his way. V'ish avin machshavoisav. And the person who's avin is a lashon of mikshol, who stumbles with his thoughts. Anger, ka'as, gaiva, natira, resentment, sinah has v'shalom, hatred, nekama, oh my gosh. Remembering mistakes I made yesterday and beating myself up over it to the point that it brings me down. I fall into yush. I'll never be able to change. Yazayv rasha darkoi, the ish aven. Ish is not a rasha, but he allows his thoughts to take over his mind. V'yashav el Hashem, come back to me, says Hashem. V'yirachamehu, and he will have rachamim. Vel Elokeinu, come back to our power of all powers, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ki yarbe l'slayach. His forgiveness is abundant. Ki loy machshavoisai, and this is the pasuk I wanted to get to. Because my thought, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, loy machshavoisai machshavoseichem. The way I think is not your reality. V'lo darkeichem derachai. Your ways are not my ways. Ne'um Hashem, declares Hashem. Ki gavu shemayim me'aretz. The same distance from earth to the ends of Shemayim. Gavai drachai midarkeichem. That distance is not as much as the distance between the way I run the world and the way you think it's being run. Umachshavoisai, the distance between earth and the ends of the heavens is less than the way I think, mimachshavoseichem, from the way you think. Says Rashi and the Rishonim on this pasuk. It's talking about teshuvah. Says Rashi, if a king has someone rebel against him, the king has no choice. He has to cut off his head. Even if the guy says, I'm sorry that I cursed you, dear king, and I'm sorry, please forgive me. Even if the king wants to forgive him, he has to cut his head off. It can't be mochel. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm not like that. You can hasv shalom be megadef, mecharef, you can curse, and you can live a whole life against me, and in one moment do you say sorry, I'll take you back and I'll forgive you for everything. Listen to the language of Rashi. Ki derech malach basav adam shelo yimchol klal uklal. V'darchai, but my ways, limchol mikol v'kol. I'll be mochel everything. Umachshavosei machshavosechem atem choshvim. You think she'ein teshuva moyel kol ikka. It doesn't help. I've tried so many times. No more lashon hara, and it comes out the next time someone's name is mentioned. I just can't hold myself back. I fall into sinner. I fall into natira. I fall into machlekes Rahman al-Islam. Comes among HaKadosh Baruch Hu through Rashi and tells us, Atem choshvim, you think teshuva ein moyel kol ikka, doesn't help. Aval machshavoisi shemoyel harbe ma'oid. But by me it helps enormously. Rav Nachman of Breslov in Sichas Iran, I think is in Reish Lamed Vav, he brings that one burn in Gehenna is worse than all the Yisurin combined of a lifetime. It's worth to come into this world for one hero of Teshuvah because that gets eternity. How much eternity, quantitatively wise? Hashem will decide. But it's worth eternity. And every mistake in this world, there's a price. Gehenna, max 12 months, and then eternity. For what? Starting with one year of Teshuvah. It's already worth it to come here. Why am I sharing this with you? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu has his reality, you and I have our reality. And the only reason I would not think of saying, Rebbeinu Shalom, I love you, please forgive me, all my averas, and do it every single day. Just even walking on the streets, getting on a bus, waiting at a light, and just speak to Hashem, saying, Rebbeinu Shalom, help me do tshuva, help me. I can't even remember all my averas, but help me. That is just the words. That's already beyond thinking. Certainly thinking is also, a hero of teshuvah makes all the difference. And says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I want you to know that the difference between planet Earth, its surface, and the furthest most point in the heavens is less of a distance than the way I think and the way you think. Because you and I think, oh, I have so far gone into all the different mistakes I've made, I'll never be able to turn this marriage around. I'll never turn that kid around. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, change the only person I'm capable of changing, because when I change the way I think, you will pick up on that. Kain leva adam la'adam. Kamayim apam nipanim kain leva adam la'adam. Just like waters don't deviate the way you smile or frown at the water, it reflects your smile exactly as you look at the waters. Kain leva adam la'adam. So is the mind of one person to another. Tana Debei Eliyahu, Perek Kaf Beis, end of paragraph Vav. Afilu Oimed Adam, even if a person's standing, Umecharef Klapi Maila, and he's cursing a Kadosh Baruch Hu, Rahman al-Islam, V'yachazar, and he comes back and does tshuva, V'asa tshuva, Ata HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you Hashem, Moichel al Kulam, forgive him for everything. Eliyahu Hanavi. Whoa! I think that's second best to Moshe Rabbeinu, in a certain sense, if you think about it. You can be soimech. Eliyahu Hanavi is telling you Hashem's mindset. A person, Has v'Shalom, could have a life of doing terrible aveiros, and Hashem says, please come back to me. And the only reason I wouldn't come back is because I don't believe my teshuvah will make any difference. And Hashem says even one thought makes a difference. Yuma, famous Gemara, Peivav Amud Aleph. Amar Rabbi Yonatan, Gedola Teshuvah Shemekareves HaGeula. Oh, do we need this one? Teshuvah is very great. It brings the Geula sooner, closer. Amar Reish Lakish, Gedola Teshuvah Shezadoinos Nasek Lai Ke Shagagais. That an Aveira done, B'das, against the Kodesh Baruch Hu, B'mezid, can be turned around and it's counted as a shogeg. That's huge. A person kills on purpose and now wishes it was an accident. It's counted as an accident. He wishes he never did it. It's counted as an accident. It's a completely different einish. For the person who is caught killing on purpose and with hasra, he can get misa. Arba Misa Beis Din. And for someone who accidentally killed, he goes to Ari Miklat, one of the cities of safety, and if the next day the Kohen Gadol dies, he's free. And the only difference is over here. But comes along Chazal and tells us that when a person does Teshuvah Meira, Hashem counts all the Aveiras that were done in the past, that were done on purpose, becomes a shogeg. Adds on, Reish Lakish, Gedola Teshuvah, sorry, now again Rabbi Yonatan. Gedola tshuva shezadonis nasai k'zchuyos. Same Rish Lakish, sorry. That if the teshuva is me'ava, Hashem will take whichever minus side of the scale that Aveira was on, -5, -10, -1,000, -1,000,000, and puts it on the other side of the scale, +1,000,000. Whoa! That makes no sense! Well, precisely, because you and I, we live in a reality that's not Hashem's reality. In Hashem's reality, that is a 100% emes. And it's the only emes. When we forgive another Jew, whether it's in silence or verbally or openly to their face, it makes a difference to our muzzle. It changes our muzzle. Comes now Rabbi Yonatan, Gedola Teshuva, same Gemara, Pei Vav Amud Aleph in Yuma. Gedola Teshuva Shama'areches Shnoisav Shaladam. A person has for Shalom could realize they're in a serious danger, and in 1 second, they could do Teshuva. And Hashem could add on years. You probably heard the story of one of the Bochrim in Meron who felt that this was his last breath. And he made a promise that if Hashem would save him, in his mind, he said, if you save me, I promise never to speak in shul ever again. Only tefillah, only Torah. And the split second later, he was grabbed from the back and pulled out before he suffocated under more people falling. And he attributes that sudden being pulled out from this neder he made in his mind. One moment of teshuvah can change the expiration date on a person's life in this world. And now comes Rebbe Meir. This tops them all. Forgive me for saying so, if I'm allowed to say. Gedola Teshuvah. Teshuvah is so great. Shebishvil Yachid. For one person, She'asa Teshuvah, that if he does Teshuvah, Meichlin Loi, Ulekol Ha'olam Kulai. Hashem will forgive him and the entire world. Rambam paskins this case, where he offers the possibility where, imagine you've got Hashem on Yom Hadin measuring all the Aveiros and Mitzvahs of the whole world, and they're perfectly equal. It will take one hirhur of Teshuvah to change the balance. One person's one moment of Teshuvah literally can tip the scale and save the whole world and bring Mechila for the whole world. Is that a good deal? Do I have to wait till Yom Kippur to do Teshuvah? Or that's just a day Hashem was miyached. He designated, this is a day that if I didn't, for a reason, but Teshuvah is a mitzvah tamidi. A number of Rishonim count the mitzvah of Teshuvah as constant. It applies every second of one's waking life. I mentioned much earlier, I'm not going into it, but I know the Rabbi Chaim Kanievsky of Shlita, Rabbi Arbach, Shmuel Arbach and Rabbi Yashav were all asked the same question. Why does the Sefer Chinuch only single out 6 mitzvahs to midi, when if you look at all the Meinei HaMitzvahs of Tariq mitzvahs, you'll see there are about 60 mitzvahs to midi. It's amazing. But I'm not going to that, and they all answered they don't know the answer. I heard this from Rabbi David Wax, who heads the Tariq Foundation, and he asked this kasha to those Gedolim many years ago. The mitzvah of Teshuvah applies anytime, no limitations, no conditions. Okay, so Rebbein Shalom, how hard is Teshuvah in your dictionary? So Kadosh Baruch Hu didn't wait for Chazal to spell it out in the Gemara and Yuma. He spells it out in the Torah itself. Perek Lamed, Pasuk Yud Daled in Dvarim. I'm going to start from Pasuk Yud Aleph, but that's the context of it. Ki ha-mitzvah hazois. Now, there's a famous machlokes Ramban and Rashi. Ha-mitzvah hazois. Is it talking about Torah, or is it talking about Teshuvah? Elegantly, there are those who explain there's no machlokes. Why? Because Chazal tell us, it's Gemara in Brachas Yud Zayin, Tachlis ha-chochma, the purpose of wisdom, and Rashi there tells us chochma is referring to Torah. So the purpose of Torah, Tachlis ha-chochma, Teshuvah umasim tovim, is for me to correct myself and do better deeds, behave better. So the whole purpose of learning Torah is for me to improve myself. So really, it's not a machlokes Rashi and Ramban, it's Hainuchach. Because the purpose of learning is in order to do Hashem's Ratzon. And part of that is, of course, Teshuvah. But putting that aside, let's look at the context of this mitzvah and how Hashem describes it. Ki ha-mitzvah hazois asher anochi mitzavech hayom. When is today? Today! This is not written at the time just for Moshe Rabbeinu when the day he wrote it. No, this is every single day that we would ever read this. That's when it's applicable. Oh, that's today. Which hour of today? This morning? That's happened already. Mata Ava Hava Hava. It's happened. An hour from now? I don't know what's going to be an hour from now. No one knows when their last breath will be. I don't know what's going to be an hour from now. Oh, so when is Hayom? The only time I'm living in today, which is right now. It's not beyond you. And it's not far. It's not in the heavens, Lemo, that you would have to now say, Mi yalelanu. Who's going to go up for us? Hashemayim all the way into the heavens, vayikacher lanu, and bring down the midst of Teshuvah. It's not that far. V'yashmenu, and then we'll listen and be able to do it. No. V'loi me'evel yamhu. It's not across the oceans. Lemo, that a person would be forced to say, Mi yaver lanu el eva hayam. Some people in those days, if they didn't follow Chazal, they actually thought the world was flat. So they were afraid to go too far out into the ocean. Who's going to go across the ocean and get the midst of Teshuvah so I can do Teshuvah? V'yikacher lanu, bring it to us. V'yashmeinu oisav v'na'asena, so we can listen to it and do it. Concludes the pasuk. These are the words of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, mipi hagvura to Moshe Rabbeinu's pen, the kana, the quill. This item is exceedingly close to you. Now, if Hashem says it's close, that's good enough. But if He says it's it's exceedingly close to you. It's got to be. It can't be in my pocket, even though that's close. It can't be in my home. It can't be in the room. It can't be in something I carry around with me. It's in your mouth to say one word, chatati, I made a mistake, I'm sorry. Uvilvavecha, and in your thoughts, la soisoi. So Kadosh Baruch Hu spells it out. The mitzvah of Teshuvah is with us all the time. Says Ramban on that pasuk, he says, b'chol eis u'b'chol makom. The mitzvah of Teshuvah is any time, any place. No conditions, no limitations. Rabbeinu Yonah, Sharik Teshuvah, I didn't get time to look up where it was, so be machami, but I know it's in there. He says one of the reasons why we have a chiyuv to learn Tariag mitzvahs is because I need to know what to do tshuva for. So I have to know that. That's why they're in the same pasuk. Lo tatu racharei levavchem means, well, first of all, ureisam osai, look at the tzitzis, which remind me of Tariag mitzvahs. Uzchatim et kol mitzvosai v'asisem osam. And now, same pasuk, no comma, no full stop, no period, v'lo shasuru. Now you'll know what to not think and what to think. What to look at that's okay and what's not okay. So says Rabbeinu Yonah, how can I do tshuva if I don't know what the mitzvahs are? So that's why teshuva mitzvahs are hainuchach. Medrash Agada, I've quoted this before, so I'm only going to mention it in a few seconds. Adam HaRishon, if he only said one word when Hashem asked him, Ayeka, where are you? Instead of him giving a whole speech when he's asked, Hamina eitz asher tzviticha, is it possible that from the tree I instructed you not to eat from, you ate? And he was being invited to say one word. Had he said that one word, chatati, Medrash Agada on that pasuk says he would have been forgiven. Medrash Agada adds that if Chava had said one word, chatati, Hashem would have been moichel, both of them. Messed up big time. I mentioned last year, I'm only going to mention, I'm not going to go into any detail, Even HaEzer and Shulchan Aruch, Siman Lamed Ches, Sif Lamed Aleph. You got a person who's a Rasha Gomor, and he says to an Isha, hurry up, Mikudeshesli, but Tabazu, Almanas, you're married to me with this pruta or this ring, Almanas, on condition, Shani Tzaddik Gamor, that I'm a totally righteous individual. Everyone knows he's a Rasha. What's the halacha? Mikudeshes! Shulchan Aruch. It's a valid marriage. Why? So in the Gemara, in Kedushin, Mem Tes, where this Gemara is brought, it says, Shema Hiher Teshuva B'dasai. Because perhaps he had a thought of Teshuva in his mind. In Shulchan Aruch, it's the exactly same words, only interchanges the word das and leiv, because they're interchangeable, they mean the same thing. Shema Hiher Teshuva B'libai. One thought counts in Hashem's dictionary, because halacha is his dictionary. Rabbi Yaakov in Avos Perek Dalet Pas Mishnah Tesvav. Ha'olam hazeh doime leprusto b'fnei ha'olam haba hat ken atzmecha beprustor. Prepare yourself, fix yourself while you're in the prustor. Kadei shetikanes l'traklin. Next Mishnah related. Perek Dalet Mishnah Tesayin. Hu ha'omer same Rabbi Yaakov. Yafeh shah achas. 1 hour is beautiful. Excuse me. L'chaim, to lives. I've said it before, there's no word for life in Lashon HaKodesh, because there's no such thing. There's no such thing. That's a Christian translation. Rahman al-Islam, we're stuck with it. But when Mashiach comes, it's a pasuk in Sfania, Perek Gimel, pasuk Tes. One of the nevuos, when Mashiach comes, is the entire world will be switched from 70 languages, actually we know it's close to 6,000 languages, all the dialects, will be changed back to Safa Achas, Safa Berura, which Chazal tell us is referring to Lashon HaKodesh. But until then, we're stuck with L'chaim being translated as to life, and it doesn't mean that. It means to lives. We don't believe in one life. There is no such thing as a life. There's Olam Hazeh, and there's Olam Emes. Our translations are not deliberately deceiving us, but it's a decoy from a huge hashkafa. A huge hashkafa. This is not the real world. It's Olam HaSheker, Olam HaDimyon. It's a prusdor. It's the carriage on the way to the death penalty. 120. L'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai. Eloheinu melech ha'olam sha'akol niyah bidvaro. Oh, thank you. Yafeh shah achas b'tshuva masim tovim be'olam hazeh. 1 hour of teshuva and masim tovim in this world is worth more than mikol chayei olam haba. Whoa, really? And what's the converse of this statement? V'yafeh shah achas shel kairas ruach be'olam haba mikol chayei ha'olam hazeh. Mikol chayei ha'olam haba hazeh. Says Rav Dessler, mikol chayei. Chayei means lives of. That means every single human being's life of pleasure he had in this world, of every single Jew, every single Gentile combined. Oh, can you imagine that? Combine that pleasure into 1 hour? Whoa! Can you imagine that? You wouldn't need any fiction to entertain you for that hour. Your mind would be filled with the pleasure that every human being ever experienced over their lifetime, and the billions and billions, possibly a trillion, I don't know how many billions of people have walked this planet since the beginning of 6th day of creation, would not equal 1 hour of Kairas Ruach. It doesn't say 1 hour. 1 Kairas Ruach, because there's no time in Olam Haba. 1 Kairas Ruach of Olam Haba. Wow. Yafeh shah achas of teshuva. Question: when is that shah achas? When? Yesterday? Tomorrow? No. Yesterday never exists. Don't go there. You want to go there? Only go there if you're going to learn how to be better moving forward. But if I go there and talk about it and analyze and figure out it was, now I understand because my parents were so abusive. They messed me up big time. I'm so confused. And now I had such a good session today because now I found out that my grandparents are the problem. They started it with my parents and now look at me. That's why I'm such a mess. I've shared with you this before. My Rebbe calls it watering the weeds. You see a weed in your garden and you go into your house, take out water and pour it on the weed. Is that logical? Or is that illogical? That's illogical. That doesn't make any sense. Why would I water the weeds? Ma hava, move on. All right, that's for a different discussion. But Yafa Sha'achas is not referring to yesterday. It's not referring to tomorrow. It's referring to the only hour I live in. Famous story. On the pasuk Hayayim im bekolai yishma'u. Perek Tzadik Hey, pasuk Zayin in Tehillim. Famous story. If today you will listen to his voice. And then what's the story? It's brought in Sanhedrin, Tzadik Ches Amud Aleph. Rabbi Shua ben Levi is standing, he goes past the cave of the Rashbi, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and standing there at the entrance to the cave is none other than Eliyahu Navi. So Rabbi Shua ben Levi, he's got a kasha, Eliyahu Navi, when's Mashiach coming? So Eliyahu Navi says, ask him yourself. Ask him directly. So he told him where to find him and the simanim to know who he is. Yeshua ben Levi goes to that place, asks Mashiach, and Mashiach says, Hayayim, I'm coming today. So Rabbi Shua is very, very, very excited, goes back to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, but the day passed, and he goes back to the cave of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and he says to Eliyahu Navi says, what did he say? What did Mashiach tell you? He told me sheker. Sheker? What did he say? He said Hayayim, and that's already yesterday. Let me explain what he meant. I'll explain the words Hayayim. Hayayim im b'kailai yishma'u. If you listen to Hashem's voice today, I'm going to bring the Geula. Yalkut Shimoni on the same pasuk. Rabbeinu HaKadosh, the author of Mishnayos. Hayayim im b'kailai yishma'u. Im Eisen Yisrael teshuva lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Afilu yom echad. If the Yidden would do teshuva just one day in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, miyad, immediately, Ben David ba, Mashiach would come. Shneimah hayayim im b'kola yishma'u. Oh, when is today? Well, started this morning. Yeah, but that's not where I am now. I'm only here now, in this place and this time, and that's now. But the place I experience the now is not in time and space. That's where my body is. The neshama, which powers my mind, which is the ikka ha'adam, is your das, your mind. Oh, what's going on over here? From moment to moment to moment. How should I spend those few minutes, hours, days in the smart armored car on the way to the gallows? How should I spend it? Complaining about my parents, Rahman al-Islam? Complaining about my siblings? Or my mother-in-law? My father-in-law? Complain about my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law? Complain about my teachers and mess me up in school and my boss, my client, my co-workers? Complaining? Is that what I'm here for? HaKadosh Baruch Hu already screamed out through Yirmiyahu Navi. Ma yit'ayna adam chai. What has someone who's alive got to complain about? Says, I think it's Rashi or the Radak, quoting Yalkut Shimoni on that pasuk in Eicha, Perek Gimel, pasuk Lamates, Ma yit'ayna adam chai. Ama HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hanashama natati b'cha. The atachai, I gave you a neshama and you're alive. The oid ata yitloinen alai, and you're still complaining? 1 second, I can take the neshama away. What am I complaining about? Is that how I'm going to spend the precious minutes in that armored car, fooled by the sheker of Olam Hazeh and the Dimyanis, checking my email every 3-4 minutes, checking my phone every 2 minutes? Really? Have you seen people walking the streets looking at their phones, crossing roads looking at their phones, at the traffic lights looking at their phones? So let me ask you, walking into the elevator, walking out the elevator, in the elevator, all of a sudden, isn't that amazing? What a Musa Haskel. That every moment is utilized. Where's my mind? Where's my mind? My mind could be with HaKadosh Baruch Hu too. Ubay Titzbag, one of the Tarek mitzvahs, which is another one that's not counted by Chinuch, but is a mitzvah tamidi, every second of one's life. Thinking about Hashem. I love you. Thank you. Thank you for whatever it is that I'm being grateful to you for. So I'm going to come to a difficult question. Who knows? Who knows in this room listening to this shir when their last breath will be? 45 people in Miron, did they know that in a matter of seconds or minutes would be their last breath? The few people, Rahman al-Islam, that were crushed in Givat Zev, did they know it was going to be their last breath? Last week, 12 stories come crushing down while they were asleep, most likely, 1:30 a.m. in the morning, most likely they were asleep and may have been awake for a split second in the sensation of realizing the floor, the walls were moving and suddenly everything collapsed and within seconds. Who knows when their last breath will be? If Chazal tell us, Yevamos, Samach Gimel, Ein Puranut Ba Le'olam, there's no such thing, and I'm going to, please be mochmi, I'm not going to translate it according to the English translations. Puranut in Lashon of Chazal is payment. Is a payback for something I owe. Ein Puranut Ba Le'olam Ela B'Shvil Yisrael. Now that's talking about when things happen that are tragic to the nations. That is for me to hear. Who's the me? A non-from Jew? Who never went to yeshiva? Doesn't know any hashkafa? Has never learned Torah? Who's he talking to? Oh, the from Yidden. Says Rashi, the purpose of tragedy in the non-Jewish world is for us to take to heart and be in fear that could happen to us and do teshuvah. Kal v'chaymer, when it's so local and it's so clearly it's not a terrorist attack. And even if one wants to fall into the sheker, please be mochmi for saying this, the sheker of saying, well, the structure actually was not properly in shape. It's been sinking a millimeter a year, and the reports have shown that in engineering that there's a lot of erosion, so the building was not really 100% safe. All that's in Olam HaSheker, that's in man's reality. In God's reality, nobody would be taken before their time unless it's part of God's perfect scheme. How much more so is that for me to live with teshuvah? And I'm not talking about beating my chest every day. With one year of teshuvah is already worth it. Kol haneshama tehalel ka. Chazal famously say, Al kol neshima neshima. The last words, the last breath of Tehillim. On every single neshima, tahalel ka, thank Hashem. When is that last breath? Well, how does Tehillim in Ashrei end? Va'anachnu, it's actually not in Ashrei, we say it in Ashrei, but it's borrowed from a different pasuk later, before, in, I think, of Tesvav. The pasuk says, Va'anachnu nivarech ya me'ata ve'ad olam. What does me'ata mean? From now. Oh, the moment I know I live now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow. Not an hour ago, not a minute ago. Not a minute from now, not an hour ago. I only live now. Where's my mind going to be? Va'anachnu nivarech ka me'ata. From now. When is me'ata? Every moment. Every moment I'm complaining is a waste of the now. Every moment I'm blaming is a waste of the only now I live in. Every moment of accusing, every moment of has v'shalom, oinus dvarim, hurting people with words, lashon hara, that's how I'm going to spend the few minutes to the gallows in this carriage, in this armored car. I don't know how I'm going to be here, but as long as I am here, why am I spending my mind on machlokes, Rahman al-Islam, hirurei aveira, looking at nashim in ways that are not permitted, hatred, sinas chinam, natira, listening to the news, What's news about it? What's reliable about it? Reading the minds of Apikarasim, please be merciful me, who don't even believe in Hashem's hashgacha. So let me share with you, 3,333 years ago, 12 weeks, 4 days, and 14 hours and 33 minutes ago, we crossed the Yam Suf, and we made a blunder. She'ein kamayhu. Chazal give us a scathing criticism of a missed opportunity. And it wasn't a small thing. Here we are at the Yam Suf after 10 Makkos, and we see the Mitzrim drowned. We come out of the Yam Suf and we sing Az Yashir, and we blew it. We blew it. We sang Az Yashir from Nevuah. Where did we blow it? The Mechilta says the following, Parshas B'Shalach, on the Pasuk in Az Yashir, when we said Hashem Yimloich Le'olam Va'ed. That was a collective nevuah of all Klal Yisrael. And yet Chazal tell us a scathing criticism. Rabbi Yossi Aglili Aimer, Ilu Amru Yisrael Al Hayam. If the Yidden at the Yam Suf had changed one word and said Hashem Melech Le'olam Va'ed. Hashem is King forever. Loi Haisa Uma V'Loshan Shalesis Bahem Le'olam. No nation will have ever had any control over us, and no language. I'm not going to go into it now, but I understand that on its simple meaning, that we would be talking in Lashon HaKodesh instead of English. And we would never translate our Torah in any other language, because that is a travesty of justice. The moment we translate our Torah, we are literally creating another religion. Go to the source of the words. Use the translation until you know how to learn Lashon HaKodesh, but don't rely on the translation. That's not how we're supposed to be learning Torah. No language would have ever been a decoy to our hashkafa, and no nation would have had any control over us. No Chorban Bayis Rishon, no Chorban Bayis Sheni, no Golus. Whoa! We made a mistake. We said, Hashem Yimloich, you will be king, like in the future. Where am I now, says the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Didn't I give you enough of a demonstration that I'm with you now? So what's Chazal's tikkun for this? And the obvious answer is, well, let's say you're with us now. So look at davening. Chazal will kaveya all of the Siddur. You look at davening and you will see Kimat throughout the entire theme of davening is a tikkun for this mistake. You know, we say Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Yimloich Le'olam Va'ed. Have you noticed? The tense is out of order. It should be Hashem Malach, he was king. Hashem Melech, he is king. Hashem Yimloich, and he will be king. And yet we start off, he is king. We're trying to fix the mistake we made. Start where it's at. Now, Rebbeinu Shalom, right here in what I'm going through in my personal life with this difficulty, whether it's a health setback, finances, whether it's the children, grandchildren, whether it's mother-in-law, father-in-law, brother-in-law, it makes no difference. Whether it's local or global, Rebbeinu Shalom, you're the only one who's behind it all. And so you want me to turn to you, at least with a hero of Teshuvah, because a hero of Teshuvah is already worth me coming into this world and suffering whatever I have to suffer. Comes along throughout the entire davening. Roife chol basar, not yirapeh. Roife, now! Umafli, it's amazing what you're doing right now inside our body. In separating the toxicity and the waste and expelling it from our body. That's amazing. And it's happening right now. Pokeach Ivrim. All of Birkas HaShachar except Sha'asali Kol Sarki. That's in the past tense because that's Hashem's already provided everything we need. But every single bracha is in present tense. Because we're training in your reality, not mine. Pokeach. You open the eyes of the blind. Mal bisharumim, you're clothing me right now. Mal tirasurim, you're waking me up right now. You're releasing me from sleep, from my averas. Zoykef kufuvim, even if I have back problems, but I'm being honest with you every morning. My spine and spinal cord and nervous system and the muscular system and my entire skeleton and every sinew and muscle in my entire body, you, Zoikef, you are straightening. You are keeping me functioning. Roika haaretz al hamayim. It's happening right now. Ha meichin mitzadi gaver. You are the only one who directs a person walking down at that moment and then gets crushed, or asleep in this building at that time. Ha meichin, you're the only. Ha, the letter hey is hey hayadir, definite article, means you're the only one. It's not no one else. Ha noisen la'ayev koyach. I wake up and I'm tired. Trust me, I'm tired. But you give me koyach. I'm still tired. Ha noisen la'ayev koyach is still ayef, but you're the noisen. It's happening now. It's loshen hoiver now. Hamav sheinam einai. This is just because of Shachar. Hamelamed Torah le'am Yisrael. When we say because of Torah, we're saying that you are the one who's opening up my mind and enabling me to learn. Baruch atah Hashem, noisen haTorah. You're giving it to me now. You're opening my mind now. We're constantly reminding ourselves of God's dictionary. God's dictionary is, I'm with you all the time in every area of your life. Oise bereshis, merachim ala brias, merachim ala, mishalem sacha tov l'reyav, soymech Hashem l'chol ha'noiflim. It's happening now, soymech. It's lashon hoiver, not yismoich, not he will. It's happening now. So when a person's falling, Hashem is saying, I'm still holding you. You're not on the floor. I'm carrying you as you're falling. And I'm not going to let you fall all the way. Because one hero of Teshuvah is redeeming eternity. Yotzeh or uvarech hoshech. Oiseh shalom. It's oiseh. It's happening now. Mechadish b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh bereshis. Poel gvuros. Oiseh chadashos. Ba'al milchamois. Zoriat tzedakos. Matzmiach yeshuos. B'refuos. It's all in present tense. I'm going to jump to the Amida quickly, just to give you a few examples. Goimel chasadim tovim. It's not yigamel. It's not he will do. It's doing it right now. Constant acts of kindness is taking place right now. We're training ourselves to see Hashem now. You're with me all the time. Koine hakol. Zoicher chasdei avos. Not yizkar. Zoicher. He's remembering the schus avos now. Umevi goel. He's bringing the Gula now. You and I have been saying this for 2,000 years of Golos. We're saying maybe, not Yavi, not he will. You and I didn't see that in the Inquisition, in the Crusades, in the Cossacks, Takhvatat, Tsarist Russia, Communist Russia, Holocaust. We couldn't see it. But we were nevertheless saying the words because we're training in Hashem's emes, not ours. Haroitze b'tshuva, chaynin la'adam das, melamed le'enosh bina, chaynin la'adam das, haroitze b'tshuva. Right now, not yirtze, not ratza, not he did want, he wants it now. It's all in present tense. Hamar b'lisloyach. It goes on and on. The last ones I'll quote to you because it's shaykh to us today. It's all shaykh to us today. Mikabetz nidchei amo Yisrael. For 2,000 years, you've been saying, Rebbein Shalom, not you will bring all the Jews back to Eretz Yisrael. You are doing it now. You and I couldn't see that. Most of our great-grandparents never saw Eretz Yisrael, let alone lived there. And today, nearly literally half the world Jewry live in Eretz Yisrael. Rebbein Shalom, you have been bringing us back all this time. Shoiver, oivim, umachnia, zeitim. We might not see it, but Hashem's taking care of all the Rashayim. Oh, wow. Wait till you see their final day. That the simcha will be beyond, beyond, beyond. And if has v'shalom, we're not zeicher, we get tchias amesim, and then we'll see it. But don't fear death. Don't fear death. What I should fear is how I'm spending my life. Death, that's a psik resha. I don't mean that as a pun, but that's a psik resha. Everyone's going to die. We're born to die. So it's not, should I fear death? It's, am I making use of the hour to hour, day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year, decade to decade of my life? And one hero is already worth it. There's more to be said on this very important subject. I do believe that Rabbi Akiva was the king of now. He said, Gamzu lataiva. Kol da Avid Rahmana latav Avid. He was laughing when his colleagues were crying, seeing Shualim cross over the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the area of the Holy of Holies. And when asked, why are you laughing? He said, why are you crying? So what do you mean, why are we crying? Can't you see the destruction of our temple? And he is laughing because he sees God is right now part of the prophecy that it will be destroyed because of our Averas. But since he's keeping that promise, he's going to keep the next promise too. And he will rebuild it forever. So he's laughing at the irony because he's living in now. That is our challenge. When we see, and I really will close here, we're living in extraordinary times. I don't think Amalek was so strong ever. Amalek, we all know, is Gematria Safek. He's all about injecting doubt, uncertainty. Should we take the vaccine, not take the vaccine? Is it safe, is it not safe? Can I go to Eretz Yisrael, can I not go to? When will I see my kids again in Eretz Yisrael? When will life ever go back to normal? They're talking about masks again and social distancing all over again. And uncertainty. And the more we listen to the Olam HaDimyon and Olam HaSheker of the news, the more I'm listening to the uncertainty of people who are not Baalei Torah, B'nai Torah, Baalei Das, who are not studying HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Taig mitzvahs to tell me how I should think. And so if I fall into uncertainty, I can has v'shalom harm myself and my family, who see the head of the family is uncertain, broken. And Emunah is certainty. We're living in a time where Amalek is atheism. That was Amalek. Legitimizing abortion, the destruction of children who are not yet born, the destruction of the elderly with euthanasia, the destruction of human sanctity. Cremation is becoming so popular, they actually want to make it a chayk, that is, you don't have a choice, you have to be cremated. Do you understand what's taking place over here? We're living in a world that is injecting us with their atheistic ideas. Atheism means God is not in the picture. And when God's not in the picture, there's no sanctity for life. So abortion, it's up to the issues carrying the child. There are no absolutes. An elderly person can be put to death. Then they don't have that much use anyway. And there's assisted suicide, and it's becoming legitimized around the world. They're taking HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Torah and messing around in the Supreme Court, legitimizing same-gender marriages on Ekima every single movie. Even children's programs are now including the option of not being a specific gender. Do you understand? The injection of atheism is all around us. The standard textbooks are being changed. And we have the greatest power of all. Thought. Hear of Teshuvah. One hear of Teshuvah can break the balance. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to do our job. It was not the Romans who destroyed our temple, it was Sinas Chinam. The first temple was destroyed by our own Averas. And it's the same Averas today that Has v'Shalom have affected beautiful Jews who've suffered so much. It's not our enemies. Our enemies are our own Averas, our own messing around with falling into the trap of Olam Hazeh, Olam HaSheker, Olam HaDimyon. I close, I truly mean it. Rav Nosson of Nemirov, I couldn't find the source for this, I was told this, was once asked what is his Rebbe, what was the greatest thing his Rebbe, Rav Nachman of Breslov, ever did? And he answered without any hesitation, the greatest thing my Rebbe ever did was whatever he was doing in that moment. Davening? Davening. Learning, not looking around every single person that comes in. Learning. Speaking with the wife, I heard everything you said. Where am I? Where's my mind? You're spending time with your child? My mind's not in the office. What am I doing on the phone? Where is my mind? The greatest thing a person can do is whatever they're doing in that moment. Be focused. And in that schus, we should be zoicha to see the coming of Mashiach b'meir v'meinu. Amen.
The moment right now, the thing to do right now, this moment, is to decide to sponsor a share for Irgun Shir Torah. We have whole summer remaining. Call 718-851-8651, sponsor a share, or email ist@yeshivanet.com. B'shem Irgun Shir Torah, Mrs. Boston, I'd like to give a big yasher koyach to Rabbi Rietti for the very inspiring drasha. I'd like to give a big yasher koyach to Mr. and Mrs. Noach Karas for sponsoring tonight's share and the whole broadcast. I'd like to give a big yasher koyach to Mr. and Mrs. Matas Abraham and family for sponsoring tonight's share. Lili Neshama, Moshe Yaakov ben Matzio Sholem, Moshe ben Altachayim Yishaya, Chaim Indel bas Yishaya Yehuda, Yehudis bas Moshe Yaakov, Yitzhar bas Rav Yisrael, Chaim Sholem, and also Chos for Shleim for Gittel bas Zvora, and for Shidduch Chagim B'Korev for those family members who need it. Yasher koyach to everyone for coming.